Welcome in everyone to NBA playoff analysis or whatever you want to call like this potentially the next
Yeah, just
hour
call it
of
cheese.
if you want to call it cheese. You want to call it cheese?
Sure. I haven't
All
done
right,
one in
well,
a while.
this is the first time I'd be doing one with you. This is
There you go.
really impromptu. You just caught me off guard. I've been here
Maybe you
for
could get that tattooed on you too.
no, you gotta have to pay me for that one. Oh my god, guys, welcome to That's Some Cheese then. We're talking about the NBA playoffs and the finals preview as always when it comes to cheese. Trey Daubert. Trey, how we doing on this beautiful, beautiful Sunday? Well, where I am.
Great. I'm in the rabbit hole about 60 feet deep. We're getting things done. We're moving. Can't complain. Ready to talk basketball with Jared.
Jared, I'm gonna give you the floor. I want to see how you're doing. How are you, my friend? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a little while. Things are good on this side of the world. It's icy cold. It's been a beautiful Sunday here, but it's now 11:15 in the evening, and the lack of cloud cover means that the temperature has plummeted like a freaking stone. So it is like I can see Trey in a t-shirt. I'm one of these people that handles the cold really well, and I'm properly rugged up. So it's been a beautiful weekend, but it's a bloody cold one.
All right, guys. We all know why we're here. We're talking about the NBA finals that have just been cemented as early as last night. They have the Pacers going up against
Adam
Oklahoma
Silver.
City.
He already had a wet dream about last night. This is his dream scenario. This is why he created the CBA. Let's get Indiana and OKC in there. And this is what he wanted.
By contrast, David Stern is turning in his grave.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We wanted the CBA to be the Pacers are the example of what he wants the CBA to be.
I guess I would ask you guys, because I guess like David Stearns was a little bit not necessarily like way before my time, but like what would be his like ideal like NBA finals if he was still running the league?
The frozen envelope.
No, David Stern has literally said what it was. Like somebody said to him when he was still running the league, and they said, "Is your ideal series LA versus Boston?" And he said, "No, it's the Lakers versus the Lakers."
And then you see the Lakers, they out in the first round. So it's just funny how that it's funny how all that works. Or mostly all the teams. I know Trey, you had some reservations about some of the opening round teams. But let's talk.
Who cares about some of these teams? Like nobody really cares about the fighting Jackson loss, except for him.
For the uninitiated, that's the Grizz. For those new to the Vendetta,
the only newsworthy thing about the Grizzlies is that Jaren Jackson got robbed of like $200 million.
The way the CBA is structured now, the fact that he's missed out on all of that extra money, that means that this team, if they choose to move on from Ja Morant, which is not like it's a non-zero chance.
I've been saying that. I've been saying that when people thought I was crazy.
You're not the only one. There's plenty of people who think that they would be better off, starting again and building around Jaren. But you look at, he's not an A+ level star. He's an A grade and not an A+. But you take that money that he is not making, you take the money that Ja would have made, you take all of the players that are around, the good role players they've got. All they need is one more high-level player. And maybe
if they
one
swapped out Morant for like a B and then a couple pieces.
Well, could they do their version of a Towns trade and trade
right
flawed star in
hopefully better than
their version of Randall and DiVincenzo?
Hopefully not the roller coaster of Randall, though.
No, you'd probably want to go somebody who, is a nice meander through the park, but rather than the ride that he is. But there is a chance for Memphis to really, to seriously restructure based around Jackson not getting a supermax.
It's also nonsense that we're deciding that much money based on people who vote.
Freaking men.
Don't love that, but another topic for another day.
Yeah. It seems that if anything, I think they're in a far better position than what the Pelicans are right now. But that's just my 2 cents. If you guys have been up with
the Pelicans are like a dirty penny that nobody wants. So,
oh my goodness!
I mean, the league literally owned them because they couldn't find somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say New Orleans didn't really want them.
Let's switch gears. Let's get to the forefront of the pinnacle of the NBA, at least in Adam Silver's wet dream, as Trey put it. OKC versus Indiana. I want you guys' kind of preview. I want you guys' professional analysis of this NBA Finals. Trey, I'm going to hand it off to you first. You can go in either direction you want with Indiana or start off with OKC. But how do you feel about the finals?
I guess I would start with, I don't want to be disrespectful to Indiana, but it sure feels like Oklahoma City's a lock here. I mean, even the odds market says that. They're minus 750 to win it. Minus 750. You got to bet $750 to win 100 for OKC to win the series. I mean, that most finals, it's not that big of a landslide in terms of the betting odds. So,
no, it's a 2-horse race. It shouldn't be that far apart.
Yeah. But I guess the thing with Oklahoma City is like, what's going to really happen when they have to start paying these guys, which is not a problem for today. But I wonder if they're going to have their own, let's say, the high end of what the Athletics would do. Well, our team's really good, but we can't afford them all. So here's a surprise Jalen Williams trade that nobody saw coming 2 years later.
Nah, they won't do that. They won't do that. They'll have their top end. That's what the draft picks are for, to replenish the Carusos, the Dorts, the Case and Wallaces.
I just think there'll be a time where they trade somebody and you'll say, whoa, and it'll be some monster package that we didn't really see coming. Almost like a small market baseball team. Where they know, hey, we're not handing out this $300 million contract. We're just not doing it.
Philosophy about it too, because you have the plethora of the treasure trove of draft picks. I love that Athletics comparison, Trey. When it comes to pretty much you have your guys, Chet Holmgren, SG. I feel like those two guys.
Holmgren's making nothing
until I think at the end of next season or at the end of the season. So you have him, Jalen Williams, I think is going to be due, and then in a couple of years.
And Williams is another guy that didn't make the All NBA stuff.
And it's pretty much, it's like, that's the perfect thing about Oklahoma City. Like, it's the perfect storm, no pun intended, but it's like they're paying all these guys nothing. They're young and have such high ceilings, and you've seen it as much leading into the finals anyway. Like,
they picked in the first round this year, that Topic. He didn't even play. I don't even know if he has a spot to play. Are there realistic minutes for him to play?
But that's my point. They can get rid of these second tier guys,
right,
knowing they've got people coming through and a metric fuck ton of draft picks to replenish. So considering their core three, which for mine is Shea, Williams, and Chet, considering those three have probably got 5 or 6 years before Shea starts to age out of his prime. And by then, the other two will be in their prime, so maybe you can build around those two. With all these draft picks coming through, they don't have to hit on. They only have to hit on like 50% of those picks. They've got that many. And they could also do the whole, hey, disgruntled superstar X, I'm going to call your GM and offer 6 first-rounders. Just a ridiculous package that is not going to dent them because they've got a Scrooge McDuck vault of first-round picks. But to another club, that's a generation of talent. So they've got so many options. So I'm not worried about them having to pay people 2 or 3 years down the line.
Can we just agree the biggest loser is Paul George?
Just in general. I mean,
Indiana, their entire thing restarted when they got rid of him. Oklahoma City, this is why they're here, the Paul George trade. I mean, he's the biggest loser. There's no.
All I'm going to say is that he became that not because of all of this stuff of everybody rebuilds in his wake. It happened when, and look, this is the Australian in me coming out, but it happened when he got owned by Joe Ingles in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yep. That was the moment for me. It's like, I love Joe, and he is an awesome shooter, and he's arguably the best shit talker in the league. But what was he, 33 then? And him at 23. I remember watching him as a 17-year-old, as a rookie in the NBL over here. His athleticism at his peak was less than what Paul George's will be in 5 years. Like, he is not an athletic man. He's a skillful player, but he's not an athlete. Yeah. For him, in his 30s, to own a Paul George who was, maybe 30, 31 then, still in his athletic prime, like, that just can't happen.
Is that the worst contract in the league right now? The Paul George one?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would look at a particular teammate of his.
But what are the odds that the 2 worst contracts potentially are on the same team?
Man,
like, fuck Daryl. Fuck Daryl. He made that decision himself. Fuck Daryl.
You can't accuse Daryl of playing it safe. That's right. That's what I'll say.
My thing is, you can also I can blame him for not wanting to truly adapt either, because who did he get?
I'm not letting him off the hook. I'm just saying he's screwed. Big time.
Oh yeah, I feel bad for Elton Brand. I have little to no sympathy for Philadelphia. You dug yourself your own hole. Now you got to lay in it. So OKC, complete 180 in terms of what Philadelphia is in. And the fact that they have talent, like the thing is, I would say, like obviously going back to the CBA, this is gonna kill this Thunder team. I would say in the next 2 to 3 years.
They'll be fine until Chet's not making nothing.
But this is the point. They will kill this Thunder team.
Yeah.
But they've got the replenishments coming, so there will be another Thunder team in their wake. It's, they don't need to worry about this version of themselves getting killed, because someone will overpay for Cason Wallace, believing that he can be a starting level point guard. And he may be able to. No, I think he's great, but whether he is a top tier starting point guard, I don't know. I doubt. I think defensively he is, but I don't think he'll ever have the offense to be. But someone's going to pay to find out.
Yeah.
So they're going outside of everything they've got at the moment. These young guys will probably get signed and traded on, or traded before their second contract comes up.
What used to be no-brainer, hey, rookie extension, no problem. Yeah. We'll just sign that. No longer is that going to be the case.
No. Presti was way ahead of the game with this CBA.
But we also didn't know that was going to be the rules before he did it. He was doing it before the rules were in place.
Yeah, but that's what I mean by he was just way ahead of the game. He saw a way of building a team that nobody else had even conceived, let alone executed.
And
as it turns out, the way he's doing it is perfect.
With the new rules, I don't think any team will ever give up that many first-round picks for one player again, because you can't.
No. Well, he had the Clippers over a barrel, because it's the old argument that they gave up too much for Paul George. But if you consider that also brought them Kawhi,
right,
they probably underpaid in retrospect to where those two were at the time.
Yeah.
So remember, Paul George was third in MVP.
Oh, that's my favorite thing. Every single human alive would have made that trade.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yeah. And the Clippers wouldn't have thrown SGA in if they thought he was going to be a future MVP.
Well, of course.
They would have given up everyone else. So a lot of stuff has fallen into place.
Who thought he would be this good? Is there somebody on record for saying he'd be the MVP of the league?
Probably his parents. I don't know.
The closest person probably would have been Chris Paul, but like I've had to say, because he was with him at least when he was still a baby.
Yeah, he was very high on him, actually, wasn't he? He did come out and say it. And then, but at the time, it just felt like it was him just talking up a young teammate.
Yeah.
And it may have been, but it looks quite prophetic, 5 years on.
Yeah, I would say I'm looking at the on-court stuff that OKC has been able to do. The best defense in the NBA. In that Minnesota series, for me, like they made Minnesota's life a living hell. And it was one of those things. I know I was talking about it with Matt. OKC, they were just making, those kinds of championship plays. They were hitting shots when they needed to. They were, again, attacking the matchups. SGA, like those guys play physical defense, and they were making life so hard for Minnesota to try to get going. In that clincher for OKC, the Timberwolves I don't even think they scored more than 10 points in that first quarter. And then you just saw it was a landslide. It was just ridiculous just to watch. But it was just beautiful basketball on their part.
Can I say this though? Like we always say, oh, the Western Conference is so difficult, harder path through the West. I really don't think anybody's that good in the West. Like good to where, hey, like we can realistically match up with OKC. Who is that team?
We're talking about a 68-win team.
Yeah.
Any 68-win team in history, it's difficult to match up with them. So
but they're not even holding these other
teams to a standard that is historically, impossible.
This Wolves team. Is this Wolves team really that good?
Not yet. And my worry with Minnesota is that by the time Edwards, say 3 years' time, when he's really at his peak, Gobert is going to be old. Oh. Randall will be old. Whoever they bring in to replace Randall might be old. Conley will be out of the league. I'm not as high on Dillingham as plenty of other people are, and I'm probably going to be proved wrong on that. But
but even if you're wrong, he still can't defend.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, he's going to have to defend on nous rather than physical ability. But going back to what Jamani was saying about the Thunder, one of the strengths of this team is that literally everyone, like their worst defender in their 12 is probably Isaiah Joe. And people say, oh, he's a woeful defender. He's not. He's below average, but he's better than maybe 30, 35% of the rest of the NBA. But compared to the rest of his team, he looks awful. But and the thing is, because he is the worst defender you've got, that means everyone's defending well. So if Dort isn't hitting his shots, if Cason Wallace isn't hitting his shots, you can go to Isaiah Joe, you can go to Wiggins. If Caruso is not hitting his shots, you can, what's the rookie's name? You can go to Mitchell. They've just got option after option after option. So sometimes that can be, as a coach, sometimes that can be dangerous because you've got so many levers to pull that you don't know which one. And you end up just pulling levers until, it's just throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. But
last night.
Well, the problem with Tibbs is he doesn't pull enough levers, but we'll get on to that. But this is the advantage that they've got. We know that everyone on that side is going to play good defense, so they can just rotate through these awesome defenders until they find the people that are getting it done at the other end on that particular night as well. And how do you match? How do you match with that?
I mean, that's just sounds like an Indiana problem at the moment right now, because you saw Minnesota wasn't able to solve it. Who they beat in the second round? I'm drawing a blank.
Denver.
Well, I mean, Denver had their own problems, and let alone trying to ask them to solve that. It's like,
this is the thing. Denver, it took the best player in the world with Michael Porter playing with one arm, and he almost did it. He couldn't even do it. And he's like, I know SGA's got the MVP, and people will say, well, does that make him the best player in the world? He's the next level down with Giannis for me. Jokic is still the best, and I don't think it's particularly close.
I think the Nuggets could have won this series.
If Porter and AG were healthy the entire series, we might be talking about something very different off the team. But Westbrook, look, we're talking about roller coasters with Randall. The wildest roller coaster in the league is a 36-year-old Russell Westbrook. But Jamani, you talked an Indiana problem was the statement you used. This is going to be a really fascinating matchup. This is what I'll get into the X's and O's a little bit here, but you look at the teams they've beaten. Memphis was under-talented, but they run a reasonably structured offense, especially under Yasalo. You look at Minnesota, they run a relatively structured offense. In Denver, they don't run a super structured offense. It relies on the genius of Jokic to create gaps on the fly. That was the offense that they've struggled with the most because they didn't know what was coming. They had to read and react as a defense. Indiana is one of the most concept-based offenses in the league. They'll have their ideas of where they want to finish a play and how they want to start a play. But everything in the middle is up to the players to read and react. That means as a defense, you can't anticipate to nearly the extent that they normally would. So, this OKC defense generates a ridiculous amount of turnovers, but a lot of that is really good scouting, really good coaching, and players taking on that coaching. It's much more difficult to do that against a side that they don't know what they're going to do. So how the hell do you know what they're going to do?
How about Indiana's breakout passes on those turnovers? They get down the floor fast, too. That could be part of a problem, too.
I back OKC to have the speed and athleticism to stay with them if that's what the instruction is, rather than to try and trap immediately or trap at half court or anything like that, or, try and create a quick turnover, which is something OKC often try and do. They'll often try and pick off a lazy pass, a lazy outlet pass from a center or something like that. So they might be told, hey, we just need to pull back on that and not let them get easy points. Let's make them score in the half court. So that I would,
because they murdered the Knicks. They murdered the Knicks on those breakout passes.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. And especially in game 6, it just looked like the Knicks, they just weren't quite there. It was almost like Game 5 in the OKC Minnesota series where the Wolves just looked on the beach, so
lost the step and phoned it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say this about what I've been seeing in the Pacers, especially throughout that Knicks series. Like Pascal Siakam is a fucking dog. 39 in game 5. I'm not, or no, I think the Knicks won game 5, but whatever. It was one of those like final games in that series where Siakam just put on a master class. And it's like, I know there's the joke that he loves spinning in place when he tries to get his fades and all that in the mid range, but I do really enjoy Pascal Siakam on this Pacer team. I remember a few years ago we were wondering where he was going outside of Toronto, and then people saw Indiana and was like, they just scoff at that idea, and then you see where he is now. And Tyrese Halliburton has been fantastic. And that the thing is with this OKC Indiana matchup, it's going to be real interesting to see the pace of Indiana go up against the defense of OKC. And I'm going on record to say I feel like Indiana could just punch OKC right in the mouth in game 1, because I feel a lot of people aren't giving them they're not giving them kind of the respect that they've kind of garnered throughout this postseason. And you have Indiana. I feel like Indiana could really use that to their advantage in game 1, and they may not win by a ton. They may win by. I feel like every game is going to be close, but I feel Indiana is going to be really going to kind of punch OKC in the mouth and make for a real surprising game 1 win. That's just my theory going into the finals.
As long as SGA doesn't do this, they'll be all right.
He needs to do it. If he does, he needs to do it straight at Reggie.
Gotta make sure he's pointing at him too.
Make sure he knows. No, I think you're onto something there, Jamani, with game 1. It's, I mean, both of these teams have like 100% solid, massive brass balls. Like, these are two sides that are super confident. And, the first game will be in OKC. OKC are very much the favourites. This is a side that I don't think anyone on their side has been to a finals before. You mentioned Siakam.
Caruso, right?
Yeah, Caruso.
Yes, sorry, you're right, Caruso. But Siakam gives this, just in an X's and O's sense, he is the shot maker that Halliburton can't always be. And remember, I think people really underestimate him. I mean, what's he got? Two All NBA berths? Like, he's not chops liver. He's a damn good basketballer. But given the relative lack of, and I mean, we've spoken about the lack of experience. Everyone's spoken about the lack of experience with OKC, and they've thrown it back in our faces this entire postseason. But Indiana, both of these sides tend to like to ruin the party. And what bigger party than game 1 of a finals for a 68-win team? Indiana could come in and just go, fuck it, we've got nothing to lose here. Let's just throw it at the wall. And they might come away with a win, or they might go down by 30 because it just doesn't work. But it is not beyond the realms of possibility that they come in and steal game 1. Just have one of those days and OKC just get punched in the mouth and are not quite sure how to react until they recoup for game 2.
Jared, I have 2 things for you. Number 1, we saw Mitchell Robinson. I mean, he just bullied people on the rebounding in that series. Could Hartenstein do the same?
He could. He's nowhere near the offensive rebounder that Robinson is.
I know.
But the thing is, he provides so much more. Yeah. Like, Robinson, if he's not getting an offensive rebound, he is a negative on offense. Yeah. Whereas Hartenstein can facilitate. He can hit that little floater. He's got a little bit of a read and react game.
He'll hit his free throws a little bit more.
Sorry?
He'll hit more free throws, that's for sure.
Yeah, he'd want to. But no, I mean, look, Hartenstein, he could do something. He could do 60%.
If he does, it's over.
On the offensive boards.
If he does, it's over.
It might be over anyway, yeah. But you're right. I mean, Indiana need to make the Thunder's offense one-shot offense.
Yeah.
If they make it, they make it. But if they don't, you need to clean up. Yeah, it's, as an old coach used to say to me, and I say it to the people I coach, defense doesn't finish until the ball is in your hands. You can play the best chest-to-chest defense. You can be on a string, force up the shittiest jumper with a dozen hands in the faces. But if you give up that ball, you got to do it all again. And eventually Indiana will wear down because of the waves of players that OKC could throw at them. So you're right. They need to rebound.
Second thing, speaking of damn good basketball players, how about this Aaron Nesmith? I mean, he's good. He's good.
Celtic
And he's not just he hits a couple shots. He plays real defense. He looks like a real athlete. Boy, oh boy, this Malcolm Brogdon trade. I don't know. These people just kept telling me this Malcolm Brogdon. He was unbelievable. I don't know. Just wanted to see your thoughts.
Look, I got the trade at the time because Boston were looking for a championship, and Nesmith was a rookie. You know, what was he going to be? He's certainly better than I thought he was going to be. I thought the trade was an absolute slam dunk for Boston, assuming that they could get 60 games out of Brogdon. As it turns out, they didn't, and Nesmith turned into something. So, yeah, I got proven very, very wrong on Nesmith. I thought he was going to be a third guard on a good team at best.
With the new rules, that's not a trade you can make anymore. You can't just give away a young guy like that. No.
Cost-controlled contracts are they're diamonds now.
Yeah, I will say this about just to chime in my 2 cents on the Brogdon trade. Didn't Malcolm Brogdon, wasn't he a part of the trade that landed the Celtics? Was it Drew Holiday or Porzingis?
Yeah, he was the money. They needed his money to do the Holiday one.
So at least in that sense, the Brogdon trade did set up the catalyst for the Celtics to win the championship. It's not all doom and gloom. And I'll say this about Aaron Nesmith because I loved him when he was in Boston, even though he didn't play a ton. And obviously the go-to people would say is that, he was never going to be able to play with Brown and Tatum ahead of him. It's like Jaylen Brown came up as a 2-guard anyway, and now you have Tatum as a power forward and Brown as at your 3. And Nesmith, he had flashes. You can tell, he was somebody you knew at the very least he was going to play hard. People were under the assumption when he came here that he was just going to be a knockdown shooter. That wasn't his game. He showed it in the Knicks series a little bit when he laced 6 threes, I think, in that game 1. But it's you look at Nesmith and he's I feel like Indiana was the perfect place for him. He was going to find his way onto a team where he can actually truly blossom into something.
I just think if one Sam Hauser injury is going to tank your entire rotation, maybe you should hang on to guys like that. I don't know.
Yeah, look, Nesmith he's turned out to be a lot better than what I thought. Something just occurred to me though, Jamani, and it's what you said about Brogdon being traded to Portland, essentially setting up the championship run for Boston. He got traded from Boston. They win a championship. Admittedly, it's been a little bit of a break, but he came from Indiana, who are now in the finals. Before that, he was with the Bucks and got traded right before they won a championship. Yep. Are we looking at another Paul George here?
I can't stand him. So if we want to make that comparison, please.
I mean, I'm right there with you because even though he won 6 Man of the Year that year, he was with Boston. That didn't mean
awful
jack
in that playoffs. Awful.
It's awful. He was healthy throughout most of that season until right when you needed him. So, I mean,
Jared, I don't know if you've heard my rant on this, on how the Celtics should proceed, but I know you have a human that you created that loves the Milwaukee Bucks. I just think, hey, Tatum's out for the year. Why don't we just swap them? It allows the Bucks to tank. Maybe you throw in a couple picks. You can make it a 3-teamer. You can put Hauser or Porzingis to reduce the salary. And the Celtics run this thing back with Giannis, re-sign Horford, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday. Eesh, that team can win it.
That's just not going to happen.
Well, why? Why not make the call?
There is no way that they would trade Tatum. I literally wrote a story for the other site that I write for about this.
Okay.
I'm just going to look it up now because I'll give you the 2 trades that I that I looked at. So,
but Tatum makes the most money.
Yeah, he does. Now, I don't think I put exact trades in here, but it was essentially looking at. Let's run through. This is great podcasting. Here we go. Dallas. Drew Holiday to Dallas.
No.
He's 34. He's a fading force.
Well, why can't we win now?
No,
we got to tear this thing down.
No, that's the thing. I think you use this year because remember, your guys are still your 2 main guys are still so young. They've got 5 or 6 years. You don't want to get caught in that repeat attacks hell that, the Warriors and teams like that could have gotten themselves caught in. So you need to use this year as a salary cap reset.
I don't care what Nico Harrison offers. He's not getting Drew Holiday. No way.
See, Jamani, you can tell that this isn't Trey's money that we're talking about. He's just like happy to spend someone else's money. But
if we want to trade Drew Holiday, let's trade him to somebody that isn't Nico Harrison.
Think about what you could get back from Nico Harrison. He might actually trade. He could trade you the Cowboys.
I don't think Jerry Jones will allow that to happen.
But this is the thing. You can ask Nico for anything, and I'm sure he'd probably give it. You just put on a leather jacket and,
they have no picks.
You think you're a biker or something. But no, I looked at Holiday for something like, you can mix and match the pieces as much as you want, but something around Gafford and Washington and whatever young players and draft picks so that you can get rid of that salary. You've got Washington as a low-end Tatum replacement for the year. Gafford, now, this is why you need Gafford, because you trade Porzingis to a desperate team that needs a center, the Lakers.
Your team's going to get Porzingis.
Why?
I think Ainge likes him.
Why would Utah want Porzingis?
I think they'll make the move. Another white guy, big size, can shoot. I think he's Utah.
Yeah, no, we had the Kelly Olynyk experience. I think we're done. But no, the whole idea is you trade the two guys who, out of your big salary earners.
But that's why we won.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're not going to be. You literally said 5 minutes ago that if a Sam Hauser injury wrecks your rotation, then there's something wrong. You're not going to be able to. It would be nice if Brad Stevens
made one draft pick that helped the team. Then it wouldn't be the case.
But the thing is, you're drafting late because you're winning. Use this as your reset, and hopefully you don't draft a shitty player like Wiseman, but use this to reset your salary cap. And then you can build a rotation so that Sam Hauser isn't vitally important to your 7-man rotation. You take your medicine for 1 year, and you could potentially get another 5 years of contention from that.
Here's my counter with this.
You don't win next season, and you don't get contention because you don't have a roster.
Let's say they go down that path, right? Because I think that's actually what Stevens will do. Let's say they go down that path. What are the odds that they hit on that pick? And even if they do hit on that pick, what are the odds that pick is even ready by the time Tatum and Brown haven't aged out of their prime?
This is the issue, isn't it? But if you get that pick, can you trade it for something else?
Not at the money, because then you're back at the money.
No, not necessarily. If you've gotten rid of Porzingis and Holiday, you've reset the clock on the repeat attacks. So you can go back into the tax again.
I just think that the Giannis trade is there. It's staring us in the face. Never has to shoot another three again. Never has to shoot another three again.
Yeah, I just can't see that happening. I could never see them getting rid of. Like, how heartless would it be, and what message does it send to other players?
I would do it.
If your best player, homegrown player, who's just ripped up his Achilles, and you ship him off.
I didn't make the rules of the CBA. They're the ones that say we got to tear this team down. I'm just trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't think you are. You'll get a couple of years of contention, and you won't be able to build a roster because of the repeater taxes.
Well, in 2-3 years, we'll have to tear it down again. But I just think
you take your medicine for a year, you get to keep your homegrown star, and you can get another 5 years rather than 2 or 3.
I just think when it comes to the CBA, you got to upgrade the steak or you got to upgrade the lobster because our sides are really good. Our sides are really Derek. We're not getting another Derek White. We're not finding another Drew Holiday. I mean, what other guy like Porzingis is going to do what he does at the high end?
Yeah, but why do you specifically need someone like that? If you get an excellent shot blocker and rim runner, it would take Missoula breaking away from his 5-out. I wouldn't even call it an offense. I'd call it a 5-out dogma that he has.
Yeah.
But, a good coach can react. One of the best coaches at reading and reacting is just taking the Pacers to the finals. So if Missoula's as good as what we think, he should be able to react to one player playing a little bit differently.
Regardless, we can all agree Giannis is better than Tatum.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
So we could have just said that and saved 10 minutes.
Why not make the call?
I don't think they would. I really don't think they would. I don't think they'll move Tatum.
Would you do it?
No, I mean, I'd go down the, I want to get more shots at this rather than take 2 or 3 years with Giannis. I'd want to go 5, maybe 6 years with Tatum and Brown and see and trust myself as a GM to build around
Giannis
those
isn't
guys.
a dinosaur.
Like I've already built around them for one championship.
Giannis is what, 30? We can get
31.
34.
31. But remember, 31, he's been in the league since he's 18, and he plays an obscenely physical game.
The Celtics need more of that.
Yep. And what has happened in the playoffs the last few years with Giannis? The reason the Bucks can't get out of the first round is because Giannis is usually injured.
Look at some of these draft picks by Horst.
Yep, but this is the problem Boston's going to have as well, because you're always drafting late. You're not going to
Jordan
get
Walsh.
prime talent.
Awesome. Jordan Walsh is great. He's wonderful.
Righto, if you say so. But this is the thing. If you're successful, you draft late, you have to find other ways to build talent, or you need to be the Spurs and have some magic spell cast over the 29th pick where they all become all-stars.
Let me ask you one more thing on the Celtics. Do you think I've been unreasonable with the criticism of Brad Stevens with the way that he handled this season? I just think, look, many people will not care about this. If you're going to give up a second-round pick to trade for Jaden Springer, your trade deadline move is to give away a second-round pick to get rid of Jaden Springer and then bring nothing onto the team. I just think that's shameful. Just totally shameful.
No, I don't know what he saw in Springer. There were certainly better options he could have gotten out there, but ultimately he didn't have a lot of, we spoke about these levers to pull. He didn't have a lot of levers to pull because this roster is so
I get that, but Springer was your move, and then your move was to get rid of him. You didn't even they didn't try to get one more piece. Oh, we're gonna sign Torrey Craig out of the buyout market. That was a waste of time, buddy. We needed one guy. We needed a Strother. How about one of those Trailblazers guys, Kamara? Just one little bench piece.
You really reckon any of those guys are going to be traded for Springer?
No, I'm just saying, you had a roster spot.
Yeah.
They needed one more bench guy because when Hauser went down, they had no options. They needed one more bench guy. Anybody. What's his name? The dancing French bear that the 76ers got for nothing. I mean, just one guy. Couldn't get one guy. And they lost those 2 Knicks games by 1 point. One guy off the bench, you win those first 2 Knicks games. One guy.
We don't know whether Stevens was working the phones or not, and whether – because there's no way they were going to get Kamara. Let's just exclude him from
this. They got picks, though. They got all their picks.
Yeah, but Portland don't want picks. They've got a young core they're building, and Kamara is a part of that core. They want to keep him. But we don't know whether other –
done.
We don't know whether – I still don't think that's going to get it done for Kamara. I mean, Jordan Walsh is a nothing. Yeah, that's just
right. That's part of the problem. Why are we picking Jordan Walsh? What was the purpose of that? We're in a win now window. You can't do those things.
Draft picks miss, Trey.
But he was 18. Okay, let's say Jordan Walsh hits. By the time he hits, you've already torn down the team. They needed a guy that could help them right now. And all that guy
Taylor Shireman.
They don't use him either. But there's not one draft pick in the Stevens era. And he's been on the job for a long time. Not one draft pick that's helping them. Not one.
But this is the point that I'm making, that he's not picking from a position of strength. He's picking in the mid to late 20s.
Hey, they had that Şengün pick was theirs, gave him away. They had
but that wasn't even Stevens.
It was.
No, that was before him. That was Ainge, wasn't it?
No, he used that pick to get rid of the Kemba Walker contract, and they brought in Horford.
Well, Horford's turned out, he's core piece of
imagine if they just took Şengün.
Yeah, but if my auntie had balls, she'd be my uncle. We're talking in 2020 hindsight.
They got I think the Kispert pick was the one they got rid of with Brogdon. Could be wrong about that. It was part of a trade. And the year that they picked Walsh, I think they got the 20th overall pick from Memphis, and they traded down a bunch of times and then picked Walsh.
Yeah, they traded for future assets, didn't they? Future picks.
You could have picked somebody that helped you. Somebody, anybody.
Yeah. But it's a draft. It is a crapshoot. We talk about Look, I was talking. You mentioned Lachlan, my youngest, who's the Mad Bucks fan.
Yeah,
he was looking through literally yesterday the Giannis draft, and he was going, "How does that happen? How do the best two players in a draft get picked 15th and 27th in Giannis and Gobert?" And he said, "How did Anthony Bennett go first?" He said, "I'm too young to remember this date. How did Anthony Bennett go first?" And I said, "Even in the moment, it was a stupid pick, but this is the point. It's." Like, it is a crapshoot. People draft these players because they think they're going to be something. Nobody thought Rudy Gobert was going to win 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards.
He
shouldn't have.
The Giannis thing is so different, though, because, like, it looked like he was on a Nerf hoop. Like, nobody knew what to make of that.
Yeah, and he was also 6'8" when he was drafted. He grew to 6'11", 7 foot. But that's what I mean. Like, Jordan Walsh is 18. Who knows whether he's going to grow another?
He stinks.
No, he does. I agree. But I'm playing devil's advocate here. What happens if he grows another 4 inches and he fills out? And you back your coaches to be able to teach him this skill or that skill. You can teach any monkey to do the right job as long as you get the right monkey. You get an athletic specimen, and you can teach them the skills. So that's what a lot of these guys look for. They look for the athletic home run in the late 20s because that might pay dividends down the road, or they go the Baylor Shireman route, which is the ready-made player. And, I mean, we saw this season how that went.
So you really wouldn't do the Giannis trade? You really wouldn't do it?
I wouldn't.
Do you think that team could win it, though?
Yeah, they could. But the thing is, in 2 or 3 years, you're rebuilding as opposed to rebuilding in 5 or 6 years. You give yourself more chances at winning it. And I'd rather take more chances than less.
I just think you're increasing your odds here big time.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm increasing it for the other 3 or 4. So,
but even the other 3 or 4, are we sure we're getting the same Tatum again coming off this injury?
No, yes. Well, of course not. And that's the thing. Are we sure we're going to get Giannis for 82 games plus 20, 25 playoff games?
No.
Considering his injury history in the last few years. There's I don't think there is a right way to do this or a wrong way to do this. I would look to reset the clock, though.
I think the wrong
and be able to rebuild around your core too for longer.
The wrong way would be just giving away these pieces and getting nothing back to save money. That would be the wrong way.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But Trey, I think there's an avenue where, and I said as much.
Oh, you're still here, Giannis.
I mean, I was letting you guys just go. Like, you guys seems like you guys are just all over the Celtics. So I'm like, this is great. Just being a spectator.
I just don't think the eye of the tiger. They had none of it this year. None of it.
No, I think they were tired. I think they were just worn down.
LeBron said it best. They were like lazy with their own greatness. I don't know if that was what he said.
Did he say that?
He said something along the lines is that they were bored with how great they are. Because you've seen it with the Celtics.
That's what it looked like to me watching them.
It's like you look at the Celtics, and when they go on a barrage and they get punched in the mouth as a return and as a response, and a team goes on a run, then they don't know how to react to it. Like, you look at the Knicks here.
Germani, you watch those Celtics playoff games.
Regrettably.
I mean, they could have buried the Knicks anytime they wanted to. They could have put the Knicks away anytime they wanted to. They just let them crawl around, hang around.
You want to know why? Analytics. The 3-ball.
Giannis doesn't need to shoot another 3 again.
But the problem is, for the play style that Joe Mazzulla tries to run, you want Jason Tatum as like the forefront, as that guy. And
why do we care what Joe Mazzulla thinks?
I care about what I think right now, and I think Jason Tatum is a lot better for the future of the Boston Celtics.
Do we need to team build around what Joe Mazzulla thinks?
Well, on Germani's point of much better for Tatum is better for the Celtics. I don't necessarily think he's better for the Celtics than Giannis, but he fits what Mazzulla wants to do. And I mentioned it before. It's not a play style for Mazzulla; it's a way of life. It is a dogma. Like, he is so married to this. And this is why they weren't able to put the Knicks away, because when you shoot a metric crap ton of threes, if they're dropping, you blow teams out of the water. But if they're not, what's your alternative? And also, long shots lead to long misses, lead to breakouts.
Oh yeah.
So, you you're rolling the dice a lot with this. When it works, it's absolutely unbeatable. But when it doesn't work, you might actually be handing the impetus of the game to the opposition by giving them easy points.
It boggled my mind being up 20 in those first two games. And I think it was nearing the end of game 2, or it was the end of game 4. But obviously Tatum went down in game 4. But regardless, seeing the Celtics, you were like, at least the way I was taught basketball, when you have a big lead like that, you do your best to try to preserve it and extend it, not necessarily by just looking for the first 3 ball you see. To be fair, they were taking a lot of wide open ones. But when you see it's not falling, I'm not saying just give up open threes. I get it. These guys are professional athletes, for Christ's sake. Like, you would expect them to keep taking those shots. But at the same time, why are you always looking to try to get it out for a 3 when like you have guys like Tatum and Brown and guys like that who can get to the rim? And just to even just to calm things down, because you allowed the Knicks to go on those runs in the second half, and more or less you had no response because all you were settling for was Derek White like in motion threes, or like pretty much it was the same guys. You see like Derek White, you saw like Peyton Pritchard and guys like that. And then you can't buy a stop on the other end. It just made for horrible basketball to watch. But that's the whole thing about living by the 3 and then, completely blowing yourself up by the 3.
It's dogma. They look for that 3 because that's what they're taught to do. Now, the game has changed a lot since I played, but some things don't change. And one of those is that if your shot isn't going in, you need to find a rhythm. And the only repeatable shot in basketball is a free throw. It's the one shot that never changes. The defense never changes. It is always the same. So I always got taught, and I was a shooter. I was a sharp shooting point guard. So I would have loved to have played today with point guards just can let it fly whenever they want. I would have loved it. But I always got taught if my threes weren't dropping, try and get to the hole. You can create, or you can get to the free throw line and find your rhythm. Now, when they're not dropping, especially when you've got Tatum, he can get past anyone. He's 6'10", he's agile.
He doesn't do
and
it
you
enough.
Can't lay off him because you need to respect the 3. But he would dance, and take usually a sidestep 3 rather than just going, okay, well, I'm going to take that sidestep, have him come towards me, and then burn. Because the Knicks were really concerned about the 3. You go back and watch the last quarter of game 1 and 2, and the backline was open. The backline was relatively open because they knew that they had to respect the 3, and that's what Boston wanted to do. And they were taking the chance that Boston wouldn't attack an unguarded hoop, and they were right. And it's that dogma again. It's that lack of flexibility in the Celtics offense.
Jared, I got 2 things for you. First, is Peyton Pritchard the only untouchable on the roster?
That's another one I got proved wrong, and I wasn't sure what Pritchard would be, but I didn't think he'd be this. Like,
he's good.
He's seriously good.
Yeah,
he is seriously good. He's one you want to try.
And he's $8 million. $8 million.
That contract looks fantastic now.
We go 7.2 per year.
Yeah,
through to 2028. I mean, that's obscene.
Yeah. Second one, since you hate my Giannis trade, who do you think Giannis is going?
I still think Houston are the front runner.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the return?
It could potentially be like Green will definitely be a part of it. Green and Jabari
Do you
Smith.
want Green?
The potential is there. That's the thing. No, I mean, you see when he's on, he is majestic. But we've spoken about roller coasters earlier. He's another one of those roller coasters.
But that's the thing. Players. If you trade for Green, you almost have to make him your max guy.
Well, I haven't finished the package yet, so it'll definitely include Green and Jabari Smith, because Jabari Smith is redundant positionally without Giannis there. The big thing will be whether they go, whether the Bucks demand Şengün and Houston has to have all these guys step up around him, because Şengün and Giannis, I'm not sure the compatibility there, considering neither can really shoot, and both are offensive hubs. So, if the Bucks were doing this, how many picks can they get? Do they decide to go with guys, with Green, Smith, and get all these young, talented guys that can't get on the court, like Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd? Or do they go for Şengün, build up around those three as their 3 stars, and Houston brings through this next level of player? So I don't know what it would be, but it would definitely be Green and Smith, and I would expect they would probably have to move Şengün as well.
Are we sure that Jabari Smith is better than Tari Eason?
I don't think he is. He's a better shooter.
Okay.
But that's about it.
Okay.
And look, that's not to say he's a bad player. He's a good player. And he will get better in a system where he's given more leeway. But at the moment, he just plays defense and shoots corner threes.
But to me, that would be highway robbery for the Rockets.
It could well be. But, I mean, Şengün was he was close to All-NBA this season. And he's 22 years old. They need to replace Brook Lopez soon. He's 1,000 years old.
But that's the thing with the Tatum part of it. Why not take Tatum, sit him the whole year? That's your excuse to tank.
I don't think Boston would do the trade.
You don't think Boston would do the trade?
No. Tatum means too much to them.
Wow.
And the message it would send to every other player in the league, it's like, because remember, they've already done this with Isaiah Thomas.
Where they ran him into the ground. That's not the same.
No, but they ran their best player into the ground. He was injured, and then they moved him anyway.
The Phoenix Suns traded Isaiah Thomas for nothing. How many teams traded Isaiah Thomas for nothing?
Yeah, because he turned into something at Boston. But that's my point. He was a Boston guy. He became something in Boston. But the moment he was expendable, they just moved him. And I know Ainge is a heartless bastard. I completely acknowledge that Ainge is for a man of God, he's the most heartless person I've ever seen. But, Tatum...
But that was for Kyrie. You do that prime Kyrie trade every time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it didn't work out, but I got the concept of it. I quite liked the trade at the time. But, no, Tatum means too much to that franchise. They will not move Tatum.
Would you do it for Brown?
That is more interesting.
Okay.
And it's probably more interesting to the Rockets because they know what they're getting, and Brown might be keen on that because he's always felt like he could be the main guy.
So you think Milwaukee would ship Brown to Houston?
I think they're the front runners. I'm not convinced he gets moved, in all honesty.
Giannis.
Yeah, I'm not convinced I'm very much on the fence as to whether he stays or goes. I think they need to move him. I think they may as well, trade him while Giannis has got close enough to peak value, but I don't know whether they will. And again, it's because Giannis means so much. When you throw in tenure, he is the best player in franchise history. But
it'll probably depend on if he wants to go. Not
well, that's the thing. Yeah, if he sort of quiet, it's much like Lillard. If he says just quietly, look, I think the time's done here. Thanks for everything, but you'll always have a place in my heart, etc., etc. But if he does move, I would expect Houston to be at the front of the queue. They've got the trade assets, they're ready to compete, and they just need an offensive centerpiece. They need a sun for the planets to revolve around, and Giannis can do that. And as a bonus, he doesn't take anything away from their defense, and I think he would fit in really well with Ime Udoka. The two of them are nutters. I think they would work really well together.
So no San Antonio.
That could well and truly work too. But I still think I think the Spurs will play it. Well, I mean, I thought the Spurs had played a little bit more patient, but then they went and got Fox for. But again, they got Fox for practically nothing, so it was almost like an asset.
And that second overall pick, who are they really going to pick with that second overall pick?
Yeah, I think it'll be Harper, but then what does that mean for Castle?
Right.
Yeah, but to be honest, if they're moving for Giannis, the second pick is going to be a part of it.
Okay.
And probably Castle as well.
I think that's a better package than what the Rockets can offer right there.
No, I still think you're taking the sure thing of a 22-year-old borderline All-NBA center.
Oh, the Şengün part's different. I was thinking the Green and the Smith part.
Yeah, no, if it's Green and Smith and then you throw in pieces, there'll be a lot more draft picks coming.
Yeah.
There'll be less draft picks if you throw in Şengün, obviously, because he would become the centerpiece. But I think that they would take Green because Houston would happily move on from Green, and Smith would have to be in there because he's redundant with Giannis on the roster. So it purely becomes, do you go lots of little pieces or one big piece? in Sengun.
Okay. We'll see. What other teams you want to go over? You want to spend any time on your Utah Jazz and how the NBA rigged the lottery?
No. No, I don't. Oh, man. No.
Okay. How about
I
the
do
Los
think,
Angeles
though,
Lakers?
the Jazz
Any time on the Lakers?
desperately. I do think the Jazz. I will say this: the draft. I know I'm right about this as well. The Jazz need to trade Lowry Markkanen to trade into pick 2 or 3. Like financially, it'd be difficult to trade into pick 3, simply because of those big contracts that Philly have. There's nothing really matching unless they take back Paul George, which is not happening. No. So I think Lowry, like if they can't get Giannis, I think Lowry would work really well with what San Antonio has. Because Castle is in the shooter, he needs driving lanes.
Keldon Johnson?
Yeah, it'd be something around like Sohan, Keldon Johnson. You'd probably have to take Harrison Barnes. You'd take the second pick, and there might be some little, you might.
I like that trade up.
Yeah. So, I mean, you might swap shooters, young shooters, Sensible for Champagne as part of it or something like that. But yeah, something around either Vassell or Johnson with Sohan and Harry Barnes with pick 2 and pick 5 swapping.
I still think the NBA rigged the lottery. I'm convinced of it.
Oh yeah. You can't bail out Nico Harrison like that and not make it look not suspect. So
look, it's the only thing that makes me agree is that there is such a history of this happening when a team makes a major trade and gets fleeced in it. But there's so many checks and balances in place. I don't know how they would do it.
I think they need to air it live like the NHL just did. Show us the ping pong balls. Put it on camera. Let's see it.
Yeah. Or at the very least, even if it's not live, even if it's on like an hour delay or something like that, so that we can see what goes on.
I think that should be requisite. Like they should show us the actual ping pong balls that came up that made it. Oh, this is why they got that pick.
See, I don't know. I don't know how the lottery runs in the States, but over in Australia, we'll have our, like on a Thursday night, Tats Lotto will do their 2-minute, TV drawing of the numbers, and they'll have their government officials and all that sort of stuff, but it's not live. It's recorded earlier in the day, and the government officials there to make sure everything runs smoothly and there's no rigging. But we get to see the numbers. It's not just the numbers just roll up on the bottom of the screen. Right. So you could do something like that, and instead of having the big announcement where, like Rolando Black, or the old Jerry West thing where we literally see Jerry West's heart break on live international television. Yeah. We can actually have maybe still have the representatives there. I don't know. But you like you said, you literally see the lotto numbers being drawn.
Because nobody would ever say it's rigged again if they show us the ping pong balls.
Yep.
What are you hiding?
Yeah, and there's enough people in the room. Like, Zach Lowe reports on it every year that he's in there. And, I think it's impossible to rig. I think it's just pure dumb luck. But at the same time, shut the conspiracy theorists up by letting us see it.
You want to spend any time on the Lakers?
No.
Do you want to spend any time on anybody?
Well, nominally we were here to talk about the finals. Apparently, we're
I think we covered
62 minutes in, and we've done like 3 minutes on the finals.
We did 30 minutes on the finals, right?
We talked a little bit about the finals, the playoffs, and what kind of led to this point. And it's good to have talk about that dynamic, but also it's like we're at that point now where the NBA offseason is kind of knocking on the door too. So it's like it's fair to be discussing, the draft and everything else upcoming.
I just think if LeBron actually wants to win, he should think about taking a minimum.
Yeah, I agree. It's not like he's short of a penny.
No. He can't be a max guy anymore. Sorry, but he shouldn't make the max anymore. Now with these rules.
He's all NBA second team this year. So based on pure basketball performance, he's still a max guy.
Well, if they don't want to win, sure.
Yeah, I agree from a roster building perspective, but from an individual perspective, it's not like he's a 40-year-old earning max money from legacy performances.
No, he's not Robert Parrish at 40.
Yeah, it's not like Kobe or Dirk late in their careers where they were earning max money for minimal performance. This is a guy who is still remarkably producing.
Even if he takes the minimum, he'll still make more than 80% of the league.
Well, no.
I mean, he'll get other deals. And
you're meaning outside of NBA? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, his endorsements all.
Yeah,
he's not going to be eating ramen. Let's put it that way.
Take the mid-level exception.
Yeah, but then how will they sign Jonas Valanciunas? They need a center.
That's true.
Unless they want to max Jonas out. I don't know. Put him into LeBron's old spot.
God.
Mark Williams is getting traded again?
I think we've done that dance. I don't know. Austin Reeves for Derek Lively.
Para Porzingis and Doncic again.
That's the one thing about the Porzingis to the Lakers proposal that I had, that after I'd published the article, I sat there and thought, oh, hang on.
I forgot.
Forgot about that.
That would hurt my soul if he played for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Even if it meant getting back somebody like Hachimura.
Yeah.
Oh, Trey, you and I, like we have had our condo on Hachimama Island for years. For a while, it was pretty much just you and me there waiting for anybody to roll up.
Mm-hmm.
But we're starting to see some little
there's a neighborhood
pop up now on Hachimama.
Yeah, we got some neighbors.
Yeah, it's nice now. We can actually talk to other people.
All right, let's close it. Who else do you want to maybe end on? The Kings are a waste of time.
In general.
Yeah. The Raptors have the worst cap sheet in the league. Just maybe somebody more interesting than that.
I don't know what's happening with the Raptors. I mean, on paper, that could be a good side, but you almost know in your heart
not when you look at the contract,
they're going to win 35 games.
That Quickly contract's unbelievable.
Yeah. Turn one good season into generational wealth. Good on him.
Shout out the Knicks.
I'll shout out the Knicks for getting rid of him when they did. I mean, he and RJ are not worth OG.
Do you think the Magic will do anything crazy? How about that?
Trade Anthony Black.
Man, they so desperately need someone who can shoot the damn basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching the Magic play D. I love watching Paolo. I mean, to be honest, even if Franz finds the jump shot that he had 2 seasons ago, that could make so much difference, because Paolo is a decent shooter from outside, but the problem is he's creating so much of the offense.
Yeah.
If Suggs can develop a little bit of offense, if KCP rediscovers that shot, because he's only 31, he should not be fading out. I'm just putting it down to a bad season at the moment, but if we get to Christmas Day this year and we've got the same KCP as last year, then he's in decline pretty clearly.
Do you think the Magic and the Cavs could make a Garland Suggs swap work?
I don't think they would, simply because Suggs means Suggs is the heart and soul of that team.
I love him.
Yeah. No, I think he's not the best player on the team. He's going to be at best the third best player, but he is the heart and soul.
They got to do something to find offense, though.
Having said that, Boston traded their heart and soul and won a championship.
Yeah.
So, you never know. I still think that there is a younger, lesser level player than Garland who might get picked up, and somebody that their defense can cover. So it might be, an Anthony Simons or something like that.
Are you advocating for more minutes for Cole Anthony?
No, I just look. He's another one of these trick or treat guys. Like he's the perfect guy off the bench, because he might get you 16 points in 8 minutes.
Sure. But
he might get you 2. The one thing in
with a negative 12
minutes, he's going to get the same number of shots, no matter how well he's shooting. So, look, there's people around who they could grab who could potentially fit that role. Portland's, like I mentioned, Portland has got this log jam in the backcourt. So Simons, unless he settles into that guard off the bench who can cover for Scoot and or Shaden Sharp, he might be the option. Does Houston double down on defense and try and get another defensive guard and free Reed Shepherd? I think it's too early to. I think it's too early to do that. but you never quite know. I mean, Houston's really aggressive with their trading, and they've got the talent now. So there's plenty of options out there, is what I'm saying. I don't think they need to go as high level a trade as Garland.
All right, I got one more for you, and then we can really close. I mean, what are the Cavs going to do if they lose Ty Jerome? I mean, he is.
I think they'll shrug their shoulders and move on. Just
okay. Okay.
I think Cleveland got a lot more to worry about than Ty Jerome.
Hey, if you told me that Ty Jerome, when he was at Virginia, would be this, I would have said no fucking chance.
I'm happy for him for like, in all honesty, I really am. It's just Cleveland is like, just the way Cleveland went out in the playoffs is it's just it's just bad. It's just bad. Like, Jared, I'll let you have the floor, but like they just got put off the floor.
I am a Ty Jerome guy. Even back in his draft year, like this, I've mentioned plenty of guys who I was wrong about. I was wrong for a different reason on Ty Jerome. I actually drafted him in a fantasy draft, a keeper league fantasy draft, because I thought he was going to be a good player. It's taken until this year for it to happen. Mm-hmm. So what are we in here? Year 7 with him? I don't know how long it's been now, but I was high on Ty Jerome, and then he turned out to be a lot less than what I thought, and now it's starting to come through. No, I think the trade will be Allen for a bigger wing and play Mobley. Give Mobley full-time 5.
I'm not sure I'd trade Allen.
I really like Jared Allen.
I do
but
too.
I think he can be more than what he is now that Mobley's getting more of the offense through him. And I honestly think they just need a bigger wing and let Mobley clear the space for Garland, for Mitchell, for Mobley on offense, and see if you can find it.
Maybe they should have traded Allen last year, because maybe Mobley doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year without him. That too.
Oh, look, Mobley will not be as good defensively without Allen. When you've got someone who's that tall and that rangy, and you know that you've got a shot blocker.
Well, it just made $200 million because the fans decided he's the Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, in his defense, he wouldn't have been if Wembanyama didn't get hurt. So they had to choose from a bunch of second places. So
I just can't believe we're allowing these fan votes and these media votes to dictate team builds based on, Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year, so now we have to tear the team apart.
Well, this is why a lot of media members have given up their ballots,
it's
because
crazy.
They don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
So now here's a trade for you. You talked about Cleveland, Orlando.
Okay.
Do the Magic look at getting out of the Wendell Carter business, moving him somewhere, and trading Franz Wagner, maybe Franz and Carter and something else for Allen and Mobley. Allen and Garland.
I think Garland would make a lot of sense on the Magic, so I don't think that's crazy.
No, I think Garland would be great on the Magic. I just don't see them going for that high level of trade. But throwing out some speculation here, do they decide they've got 2 power forwards and just a very average.
Well, the thing is,
doesn't play a lot of D. So let's go for Jared Allen.
With these stupid ass rules, you're going to have to think about making some of those decisions, because Wagner's your max. Nothing.
If he's a 30% 3-point shooter, he's not a max player.
But he's their max. They gave him the max rookie extension.
Because, and then as soon as that happened, his shot went off a cliff. So if he can find that shot again, he is a max player. But without it, he's not. He occupies too much of the same space as Banchero, and Banchero is better than him. So, do you decide, let's get and the other thing of getting Allen and Garland as a package is that those two have special pick and roll chemistry.
Yep.
They are fantastic together.
Yep. And Banchero can just be the 4.
Yeah. It can be, and it also means that it's not just Banchero running offense as well. Mm-hmm. You can actually play him off the ball and see what he can do as a cutter, as a spacer.
Garland and Suggs backcourt's pretty good too.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of them is very bent towards the offensive end, one of them bent towards the defensive end of the court. But
it's they
could complement each other,
It's like a defense pair when you got Eric Carlson, who's on one side, and he's not going to play defense. Let's just get him a Jacob Slavin next to him.
Yep. It's like every team that ever had Phil Housley in the 80s and 90s. But we need someone who is never going to cross the blue line because we know that Housley is not going to hit a thing.
Sure.
He'll give us 70 or 80 points a year, but he's not going to hit a thing. You talk
Tony,
baseball, I got nothing. You talk
Tony
hockey,
D'Angelo.
forever.
You love Tony D'Angelo.
Well, I'm a Rangers fan, so maybe not.
Germani, anything else to add? I think we did pretty good here today.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's like I said, I just let you guys just take over because like you guys.
The meandering conversations are often the best.
It's nothing like just firing from the hip and just talking shit about Adam Silver and
nobody else is going to talk shit on Brad Stevens, so I got to be the one that does it.
Or Jordan Walsh for that matter. Like you're probably the only person I've seen that like has like seems like a generational hatred for this guy.
It was a rookie mistake. I mean, what do we do? We're in a win now window, and we're just going to let this guy rot.
He's a head coach turned pretty much head of basketball operations more or less on the fly. So like I'll give him some slack for maybe another year or two. But this offseason is going to be very telling for the future of the Celtics and probably the future of Brad Stevens. But yeah, like I got nothing else to add. So like I'm good to go.
Thunder in 6.
I'll say 7. Just keep it interesting. Thunder in 7.
Thunder in 5
might be fun. I was trying not to be disrespectful in Indiana.
No,
I like Indiana. I think Indiana can play just as well as that like Nuggets team that was just like holding themselves together for like band-aids and duct tape. But no, but yeah, I think that's why I go 7 because I think they'll figure something out. I don't think they'll I don't think they're gonna be able to pull it off, but I do think they'll at least keep it interesting.
Yeah, look, I think you've got 2 brilliant coaches who are both able to change things on the fly. I'm looking forward to the coaching matchup here, but ultimately, Mark Daigneault has more horses he can rely on. I mean, we've just seen Rick Carlisle go from Thomas Bryant to Tony Bradley and back to Thomas Bryant.
He doesn't have Thomas Bryant and he doesn't have Benedict Mathurin.
Well, Mathurin, he might have in one game, he might not the next. But
yeah.
But when you just look at those backup bigs, if you're relying on Tony Bradley, who was practically out of the league, and Thomas Bryant, whereas on the Thunder, they've got their 2-headed monster of Hartenstein and Holmgren, and then they've got the other Jalen Williams and Kenny Hustle. Like, both of those backups are better than either of Indiana's backups. Their 4th best center is better than Indiana's 2nd. Yeah, that's the sort of depth we're talking about with OKC. So ultimately, I just think they've got more options to go to. If Mathurin isn't pulling out 20-point games,
he's going to have to.
He's going to have to, because where do you go? I mean, do you look at Jarris Walker? And he's talented, but he hasn't really done much in his career to this point.
Okay.
We shall see.
Good show.
Fantastic. I had a great time.
Looking forward to it, guys. Hicks versus Hicks.
Yeah. When's game 1? June 4th or the 6th?
I don't know.
No, I know it's game 1's upcoming.
Yeah.
But, guys, that's some cheese with Trey, Jared, and myself, Germani. If you guys did enjoy, would really appreciate any and all the support. You guys can give us like, subscribe, share the video around with your friends. Let us know if you guys agree, disagree with anything we had to say about maybe your beloved Indiana Pacers or OKC Thunder or Celtics fans, whatever. Make sure you guys check out vendettasportsmedia.com to stay up to date with all your favorite sports. A lot of great content on there, as well as here on the YouTube channel. So, guys, with all that being said, that's been Trey Daubert. That's been Jared. I've been Germani. We'll see you guys next time.
1 point. 1 point to go.
One more.
You talked about getting people to like, subscribe, comment. I want Jordan Walsh's family to comment.
Great. I would love to debate them.